Disney spent years and $1 billion creating their live-action Snow White remake, believing they had another guaranteed hit on their hands. But a South Park special has turned their fairy tale into a nightmare, leaving executives scrambling and their star Rachel Zegler facing unprecedented public backlash. For nearly a century, Disney built its empire on beloved fairy tales that captured hearts across generations. Snow White wasn't just their first animated feature, it was the foundation of their entire legacy. Therefore, when they announced the live-action remake, expectations were sky-high. The studio cast West Side Story breakout star Rachel Zegler in the iconic role, hoping to capture lightning in a bottle twice. On paper, this remake had everything: a rising star, a timeless story, and Disney's seemingly infallible remake formula. Success seemed inevitable, but behind the scenes, a fundamental misunderstanding was brewing. Disney executives, desperate to modernize the story, began making creative decisions that strayed further and further from what made the original beloved. The romance was gutted, the dwarves were initially removed, and the core themes were rewritten. But this fairy tale was about to take its darkest turn yet. When the star of the film stepped into the spotlight, she said something that would spark a firestorm no one at Disney saw coming. What happened next didn't just damage the film's prospects, it exposed a fundamental disconnect that's been brewing in Hollywood for years. And trust me, you'll never guess who ultimately delivered the final blow to Disney's billion-dollar gamble. The first warning signs appeared when Rachel Zegler began her press tour. Rather than expressing excitement about honoring a classic, she repeatedly criticized the original story as outdated and weird, describing the prince as literally stalking Snow White. Therefore, fans who treasured the original began questioning why someone who seemingly disliked the source material would take the role at all. What Zegler didn't realize was that her comments were about to trigger a chain reaction that would reach far beyond social media outrage. Inside Disney, executives were panicking as they watched their investment crumble, but the worst was yet to come. How did a single interview spiral so dramatically out of control? The answer reveals a shocking blind spot that's been hiding in plain sight at the heart of the entertainment industry. But the real breaking point came with Zegler's now infamous statement, essentially telling potential viewers, "I don't need your business," if they didn't like the changes. Sources close to production reveal she genuinely believed audiences would applaud her bold, modern take on the character. Can you imagine that moment of realization when she first saw the backlash? That stomach-dropping feeling when you realize you've completely misjudged a situation. We've all had those moments of saying the wrong thing, but for Zegler, it happened on a global stage with millions watching. Therefore, what should have been her crowning career achievement became a PR nightmare, with fan disappointment transforming into active resistance against the film. Enter South Park, a show that's built its legacy on saying what others won't. When they released their Join the Pandaverse special, they didn't just criticize Disney, they systematically dismantled the entire strategy behind their recent remakes. Their savage parody featured Cartman and friends transformed into diverse women of color complaining about the patriarchy, a direct shot at what they viewed as cynical checkbox diversity casting. When's the last time you felt that cathartic relief of someone finally saying out loud what everyone's been thinking privately? That collective finally moment? That's exactly what South Park provided for frustrated Disney fans. Therefore, the special resonated far beyond typical comedy, becoming a rallying cry for those who felt Disney had lost its storytelling way. But what made this attack particularly devastating wasn't just its humor, it was its timing. It hit just as Disney was planning its marketing push, completely reframing the public conversation around Snow White from anticipated remake to controversial disaster. I've spoken with insiders who witnessed what happened at Disney headquarters when the South Park special aired. The reaction was unlike anything they'd seen in their careers. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, one source told me. They knew immediately this wasn't just another PR problem, this was existential. What happened in those emergency meetings? The desperate measures they took next would only make things worse in ways no one could have predicted. Behind closed doors, Disney reportedly went into full panic mode. Emergency meetings were called. Multiple reshoots were ordered. The dwarves were hastily reinserted using CGI, creating an uncanny valley effect that only sparked more criticism. You can almost feel the tension in those boardroom meetings, the blame shifting, the finger pointing, the desperate search for solutions. We've all experienced smaller versions of this, that sickening moment when a problem spirals beyond your control. Therefore, each attempt to fix the situation only drew more attention to the underlying problems, creating a feedback loop of negative publicity. Just when Disney thought they'd contained the damage, a bombshell revelation from Colorado changed everything. Remember those South Park creators who started this avalanche? They weren't finished yet. What they were quietly planning next would make their first attack look like a gentle warning. And the timing of their next move? It couldn't possibly be worse for Disney's bottom line. But just when Disney hoped the controversy might die down, reports emerged that South Park is developing a follow-up special targeting Disney's diversity initiatives even more directly, with plans to use Snow White's box office performance as ammunition. For Disney executives, this isn't just about one failed movie. It's about watching their entire remake strategy being publicly dissected and ridiculed. The financial stakes are enormous, with hundreds of millions potentially lost. But the emotional stakes might be even higher. Disney's reputation as storytelling masters hangs in the balance. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler is reportedly devastated behind the scenes. Instead of the praise and red carpet she expected, she's facing headlines about ruining a classic and endless memes inspired by South Park's roast. When have you put yourself out there only to face rejection far harsher than you ever anticipated? That vulnerable feeling when criticism becomes personal? No matter your thoughts on her comments, there's something universally relatable about public embarrassment that transcends celebrity status. Therefore, what should have been her triumphant Disney princess moment has become a career-defining controversy that may follow her for years. The most shocking part of this entire saga? This isn't even the full story. Sources close to Disney have shared something with me that hasn't hit the mainstream media yet. A development so unexpected it could completely reshape how this controversy ends. It involves a last-minute change to the film that costs millions, a screaming match between executives that nearly turned physical, and a radical strategy that could either save Snow White or sink Disney's entire live-action remake division for good. The question now isn't just whether audiences will forgive and forget, it's whether Disney as we know it will survive the fallout. As this drama continues to unfold, we're witnessing something bigger than just a failed remake or a comedy special. It's about the fundamental tension between honoring beloved stories and updating them for modern audiences, a balance Disney has struggled to find. Therefore, Snow White isn't just becoming a cautionary tale about marketing and messaging, it's raising profound questions about whether massive companies can truly understand what makes stories timeless in the first place. But the final chapter of this story hasn't been written yet. With the movie's release still months away, Disney faces an unprecedented challenge. Can they possibly turn this narrative around? Or will Snow White become the most expensive punchline in entertainment history?